Hello everybody. Today we're going to be canning again. So I've had a lot of people say they can't make my canning classes because they're at night, they're up during the day, during the work week, or something like that. So today I'm canning, I'm going live, you're going to see it in all its glory. Right now we have green beans. Usually at Deep South we would not have green beans, we would be canning at this time of the year. We usually can in April and May, and then our green beans are gone. But a couple of years ago, we found rattlesnake beans. We had a friend send some, or one of our subscribers, and these things produce in our heat. And so we picked a 5-gallon bucket this morning. Danny and I worked on the cabin this morning, then we came home while it's hot. We sat in here and snapped our beans. I've got them ready. We've already processed the first canner. So just seen it pop down. Okay, so I'm fixing to take these out, and these are 7 quarts of green beans, and they're rattlesnake beans. I don't have enough to can 7 more quarts. So what I've done, I've got whatever I've got left of my green beans, and I've got some potatoes. Danny and I still have potatoes in the cellar, and we have to can those before they go bad. Usually potatoes will last October, November, December, just according. We have to keep an eye on them. And so we start this time of the year, if we need a little extra, adding potatoes to other things. So today we're going to be doing potatoes and green beans together. And if I don't have enough for 7 jars, we're going to make whatever it is that I have. I've already processed the potatoes. I processed my potatoes 3 minutes in hot water. And they're ready. The beans are going to be raw packed because I don't want the beans overcooked because they have to go the same amount as the potatoes. When you cook 2 things together, green beans go, let's get the ball book here. Let me turn stuff down. And I'm fixing to take this out in a minute. Take it out. Okay, so I have a ball book. Green beans processed in a quart for 25 minutes. Potatoes in a quart for 40 minutes. So if you're doing 2 things, 3 things, 4 things, whatever how many things, look at the time that each one of them processes. If you have corn in it, automatically know an hour and a half. If you have meat in it, an hour and a half. You don't have to look at anything else. You know those 2 are the most time, or the longest time. So if you put meat or corn in anything you process, do it an hour and a half. My water's boiling, my jars are ready, everything's ready. We're going to take this out now. And with a glass top stove, you have to be very careful because Danny has used this stove before I was here. I've been here 6 years. We've been using it. We're just very, very careful not to just slide things, heavy things. We don't drop things. We try to be extremely careful. And we've never had an issue since I've been here, and he has not had an issue in the 5 or 6 years before that. And you always open this pot away from you so you do not get steam in your face. That's mainly canning 101. And we're going to take these jars out first before we start with anything else. So do we have any questions or anybody?
No.
Nobody popping in?
Most policy.
Okay. So I do have people. All right, guys. If you have questions, ask them today because we will answer any questions between me and Danny sitting here with me, so he will help monitor things. I'm just going to work and talk, and he'll throw something in occasionally and help moderate this for me. Aren't those beans gorgeous? For Danny and I, 7 quarts would probably be about 14 meals. That because you use it as a side dish. It only takes half a quart for both of us, and I could put it in pints, but we don't have that many pint jars. So the first thing I'm going to do now that I've taken.
I want to know how much salt you add to your green beans.
In a quart, 1 teaspoon of salt, and we use just a great value, but it's non-iodized. You can get Cannon salt. I would advise non-iodized because it does turn some things a cloudy color in your jar.
JT wants to know, can you cold pack or just pressure cook it all?
Cold pack, are you talking about water bathing or are you talking about
No.
just cold pack the green
Wants to know,
beans?
can you cold pack the potatoes and the green beans together?
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. I have friends that tell me that they do potatoes raw pack and they turn out wonderful. I've never raw packed them, mainly because the book says to go 10 minutes and then cook them 40 minutes. I don't ever go the 10 minutes, so I'm bearing from the book, guys. I don't do it exactly like the book says. Danny and I don't like our potatoes mushy when we open them up. So we go 3 minutes. You could go 4 minutes, 5 minutes, but I wouldn't go the 10 unless you want mashed potatoes in a jar. So I guess you could put your potatoes in raw because they just know it's going to be cloudy because you're going to have some starch in it, and it probably would be starchy. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do in my canner is I'm looking over in here, and my fill line is not, my water's not up to my fill line. It's right here. So y'all gonna have to excuse me. I gotta get some water.
I want to know, do you peel your potatoes before canning?
Okay. Let me get this water here. All right, guys. I have a quart of water, and usually it's not a quart low, but it is a little low. So I'm gonna pour until it gets to the fill line. And I think this is one thing that a lot of people overlook. So it took about half a quart, a pint, in other words, to get me back up to my fill line. If you're doing multiple canners, do not let your water level get low. That's one biggie. Okay, so I'm going to turn my canner back on, and I'm going to leave it on simmer and put my lid back on. Not exactly on, but over it. That keeps my water hot, and plus with it on simmer, it's heating up the extra water that I've got while I'm working with my green beans and things. So what did you ask me? Oh, I've answered everything? Okay. So Danny's going to turn it around, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to be doing with the green beans, potatoes, and salt. And anytime you do a quart jar, usually the rule of thumb is 1 teaspoon of salt per quart jar. Okay, I'm going to move my books. And guys, the ball books. If you don't have one, there's a variety of them. Order you one. Okay, are we ready here? And I don't know if you can see it or not, but we keep some water hot on the back. And I like to keep my jars hot, at least a little warm while I'm working with them. And I always put my salt in first. A lot of people do it last, but I do it first. So maybe I won't forget it, but another reason is I can always pick my jar up and see the salt in the bottom. If you dump it on top and then you walk off, it might dissolve and you don't know. So I think I'm going to start with the green beans, and I'm going to put my green beans down and then my potatoes on top. So am I going to be in the way when I know, but when I get this bowl, I don't have.
The bowl will be in the way right there.
Okay, so how am I going to do this? Let me get a small something so I can transfer some.
They want to know, how salty does the finished product taste?
Usually not very salty at all. I open green beans and we don't add salt usually. So I'm going to put about half green beans in it. When we open a jar, very, very seldom do I add any salt to it. Sometimes Danny gets a little slap happy and adds salt afterward. You think more? Okay, he's saying more green beans. So we're going to layer.
They'll move around the jar once.
Yeah, they will move around in the jar, and maybe that'll kind of fill in. And if you've never had green beans and potatoes together, they're really pretty awesome. Okay, now I've got my salt. I fill my jar, and I have clean boiling water. The water that I cooked the potatoes in, I do not want to put in my jar ever. You want to get clean, hot water and fill your jar on up. Okay. And I have a chopstick because you will get some air bubbles, and this helps get them out just as well as any little tool that you can order or buy. So if you find some really nice wooden chopsticks, go for it. And then you wipe your rim and add, well, let's see, Danny wants them lined up, ball and the golden harvest this time. It's not ball. We're going to put on, and you only want to go, and this is hot, but hand tight. Not man hand tight. Danny gets them too tight sometimes. Now we're going to sit this over in our pot, and we're going to start the process all over again. Any questions? Okay, do y'all have questions on any kind of canning at all? All right, you got to help me with that because I don't have a clue.
I'm taking care of it. You just can.
Well, I'm canning.
Mix up your beans and your potatoes.
Okay. We're going to go nearly half and see if that's pretty good because Mr. Danny's telling me I didn't put enough beans in there. So.
You want to know how long after you take the gauge off you take the jars out? We do it immediately.
I usually do when the pressure releases on the, I don't know if that's going to work. They might. Let's see if we've got enough room for all those. I'm not sure if I'm going to have quite 7 jars, but I may have 4 or 5 once I do this because I was trying to get my beans and stuff. Yeah, this will go on down. We can add a couple more. And usually once you move it around a little, everything will settle and you won't have as much space in it. When the pot boils or pressure, you want it to bring this up to pressure and keep your eye on it. 10 pounds of pressure, and you're going for 40 minutes. Once it gets to jiggling, we have a little weight on top that jiggles. Once it gets to that, I take and turn it down a little and keep it regulated for 40 minutes. And at the end of the 40 minutes, I turn it off. I use a timer on my stove because Lord knows I'll never remember to come back in here if I walk off. So I would advise a timer. If you're canning, always use a timer. Oh, there we go. Where did my thing go? These things are a little hot. Always set a timer so that you know that it's time for it to go off. When the timer goes off, I sit my pot off the stove here a little bit on the lip of my stove to give it some airflow under it, and that way it cools off faster. The pressure comes down, and never open your canner until the pressure is off. That's just a no-no.
So can you repeat how long you process the potatoes so that they don't end up being mashed?
When I parboil them 3 minutes and then stop. And then when I put them in the jars, we process for 40 minutes. Some people put them in raw packed, which would take away from that 3 minutes. And then they process 40 minutes. So if that's something you would like to do, just know it's doable. You can raw pack and process 40 minutes. And they should not be mashed at that. Danny and I open a jar most of the time, drain them really good, and put oil and salt on them and bake them, and they're just like French fries. So that tells you ours are not. Okay, I did put salt. See, I forgot, but I can tell. Danny and I like our potatoes like French fries. So when we open a jar, we don't want mashed potatoes to try and make French fries out of. And ours are really good. And I did peel them. That was one of the questions. Yes, I peeled these. These are our potatoes. But I did peel these because they're older. We've had them in the cellar since how long? May? I think they've been in the cellar since May. And so I did peel them. And if you're going to be using store-bought potatoes, always peel. I would advise always peel store-bought potatoes. Now, if you go to a farmer's market, I would say ask the farmer you get them from how he grows them before you leave peelings on. And see how pretty that jar is? I'm not sure where I'm at. Can they see that? And we're going to see later, probably on the live stream tonight, I'll do a picture of what they look like after they come out of the canner. Because it'll take them a while to cook, and you're not going to want to sit here and listen to me rattle for 40-something minutes plus the time it takes to cool off.
Have we done a video on canning the pears?
Yes, several on canning pears.
Okay.
They
So
may not be this year.
This is Joel and Jane. They said they were floored when they saw the thing, but they want to know, have we canned any pears this year? We have canned.
We have, and I have on Crazy Days. Was it Crazy Days? Yes, I think I have canning pears. Well, I did the pear relish, and last week was the pears. So yeah, I did. I just did a little short thing. I did not talk. I just showed the process and told what I did. Now on Deep South, I have probably 2 or 3 videos on canning pears over the years, because we've been doing this 4 years. If you can't find something this year, type in Deep South Homestead canning pears 2016, 17, 18, whatever. Most of our videos over there are going to be us in the kitchen doing stuff. Every year we do a canning pear video. Every year we do a canning potatoes. We can whatever. So there are videos on Deep South of everything, usually. And if you overfill it, take one out. It's not a big deal. My hands are clean, guys. And I keep forgetting to put my jar in, so let my jar heat up a few minutes. And the jars don't have to be boiling hot. I just like mine in the hot water to kill any germs from them sitting on the cabinet for a few minutes. You can put them in the oven and take them out one at a time. Things like that. Some people don't even do the hot jar. They just pack it in here and then put it in. I guess it's your preference and how germophobic you are, I would say. I don't like having bugs and creatures and bacteria and stuff growing in my food. And that's one reason why we use salt in this, is because you want salt to kill the bacteria. Let's see, I've got 4. This is the 5th one. I'm going to have at least 6 of these probably, which is almost a canner full. I was guessing pretty close. And once you've done this a while, you can start gauging how many potatoes or how many green beans or whatever that it takes to fill a canner up. Now, if I had not wanted to do these beans today, and I wanted to hold on with the few that I have, I could have taken these beans and put them in a Ziploc bag and put them in the freezer and taken them out in a couple of days when I pick beans again to finish another canner out. So you can't, and you do not process them. You put your fresh snapped green beans in a bag and put them in the freezer. And I don't put them in water before I do that. I make sure they're dry because there's something about the way it breaks down the structure of the green bean if you put it in and it's wet. So I make sure my beans are dried if I'm going to put them in the freezer. I have canned potatoes from the store. It's been a long time. I think I did some this year in a video just to show people the difference. And usually there's not a lot of difference in store-bought and except for flavor and stuff. And the potatoes you buy in the store are older. That's your biggest difference. Okay, I'm almost through with my green beans, so I'm going to add what I've got left of the green beans. And I'm sorry I'm getting in the camera, but it's the only ways I can do this. So we may have almost a full green bean. I don't know if let me try. I don't think I'm going to have enough potatoes, but I'll try it. Let's do it this way. I'm going to put a few potatoes, and I'm going to see if I have enough to do this last jar. Because it's going to be close. I played it almost down to the wire here. I think I'm going to have to do a pint. And it's okay to do pints and quarts. A pint just has to go as long as the quart when you're doing this. If you do pints and quarts, go the quart time, 40 minutes. I got to go hunt a pint right quick because I don't think I've got enough to do this other one in the quart. Okay. Let me get this one done and then I'll go find a pint. And this is really, canning is not hard to do at all. It's just keeping your eye on it, not walking off or getting too far, setting a timer, listening for the way it sounds, listening for your canner and knowing if it's got too many in it or, you know, if the pressure's too high. Okay, so we're going to finish out with a pint. And like I said,
what's the time for pints they said on that?
The time for pints is usually 5 minutes less than quarts. So pints, if I had all this in pints, would be 35 minutes for potatoes. But since I'm doing 1 pint with quarts, we're going to the full 40 minutes. An extra 5 minutes is not going to hurt this at all. I've done this quite a few times, and the pint doesn't seem to cook really any more than it should. Never really had a big issue with it. Oh, they're all escaping from me in this water. And then we're going to finish out with a few potatoes. I might could have finished a quart, but it's going to be close. And we're going to add this. Any more questions?
I'm actually learning something as I watch this.
What?
You can't buy a Berkey in some states. They won't allow it.
Really?
Yeah. They won't
Why
sell
would
them.
they not allow a Berkey?
They won't sell them to you if you're in California, Iowa.
Really? So that means they're starting to regulate
They're starting to regulate whether you can filter your water or not.
And why would they? I mean, you would want to filter your water. Okay, guys, last one. Can they see it over here?
I can fix it where they can.
Okay. All right, so I have 6 quarts, 1 pint. We're putting the lid on now. I have my stove on high. And Danny put a new seal on it, so it's really good right now. And I'm going to let this vent for just a minute because it's already up to boiling in there because I've already had this going while I was adding my stuff to it. So in just a minute, the steam will start coming up. And some people vent for, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. I don't. As long as I know steam's coming and it's an open airway, I go ahead and put my weight. And these little things here, this little cap here is 5 pounds. This one is 10. And somewhere we have a third one like this that is 15. We never need the 15 where we live. We only need the 10, so we don't know where the third one is right now. It's in a drawer somewhere. Somebody wants to come hunt it. Okay, so it's almost there. I can see it getting ready. And you don't turn your timer on when you put this on. When you put this on, you wait until this little valve right here pops up and wait until this starts doing this. It'll take it, what, 10 minutes? Pretty close to 10 minutes before that starts. Okay, see, I can see the water starting to want to come through here and the steam. And I can hear this boiling, so it's getting pretty close. And by having your water already hot and putting hot jars in and things like that, that helps your process time not be as long because we just processed others right before it and added some fresh water, kept it going. It's doing really good. It's almost there. Okay, anything else? All right, so right now we're just waiting on the steam. Can you see it? I'm having trouble. I can tell the water's getting there.
You can see it, the thing is right in line with paper towels and the doorway over there.
Okay, so we're going to put this on, and we're going to wait on this to pop up. And it's already trying to move because it's bubbling in there. And this thing will jiggle around till it seals. And what does this do? Explain the purpose of this. I'm going to give y'all the technical person here.
Explain the purpose of what?
This right here, this pop-off valve thingy.
It has a safety valve on the back side of the lid back there that if you let it get too hot, before it explodes the canner, it'll blow that rubber rubber tip out of there. And the part in the front right there lets you know when the pressure builds up right before it goes to start jiggling. Do you see it blowing water out right there?
Yes.
I mean, you can see it.
And see, it keeps doing this. In a minute, it'll totally pop up. It might take it a minute or two. That'll just tell you it's ready to start building pressure inside. And for all the people who are scared of these canners, do you have any advice to people who are scared to use these canners?
Yeah, just watch them. Don't ever walk off and leave them.
Or go to sleep, right?
Right, or go to sleep. I've been guilty of that.
I was here in the kitchen, and I'm going to leave it on this pot where y'all can kind of watch. I guess they can see.
Yeah, they can see it.
Okay. I was in, I don't remember who started the canner, but anyway, we had a canner going, and I was going back and forth to the cellar and taking things down, and it was in the process a couple of months ago when I was rearranging the cellar, and Amanda was helping. We would go back and forth, and the canner was on, and I went to the cellar and came back, and Danny and Amanda were supposed to be watching the canner, and I went to the cellar, took a load down, rearranged some stuff, and I came back, and I looked, and the canner had like 2 minutes on it, and I said, well, I'm going back down. They're both here in the house. Maybe they'll pay attention. They were supposed to be paying attention. I went to the cellar. 6 or 8 minutes later, I come back up, and the canner's still going, and both of them are sound asleep. Danny's in one chair asleep, Amanda's on the couch asleep, and I'm telling this on them because they're guilty just like anybody else. Both of them was sitting there, they were tired, and they fell asleep, and I walked in to the living room and I'm going, what are y'all doing? The canner just stopped. When I took the canner off and it quit making racket, that's when Amanda popped up and came in here, I think. She said, I heard it stop and I wondered why it stopped. And I said, because it should have stopped like 5 minutes ago. And Danny never woke up until we started talking. So you can easily go to sleep just sitting, resting, thinking you're listening. And so that's why I say set a timer. Always set a timer. Okay, so we have any other? This is getting close. I just keep drying the water off so y'all can kind of see it as it keeps making this little bubbling stuff. Always keep a good gasket. That's one tip I will say. Danny and I have bought like 3 or 4 extra gaskets for this thing. Usually you won't have to change it but every couple of years. If you do an awful lot of canning, like last year, we canned our stuff plus we bartered and canned stuff for somebody. So it was like double canning last year. So we replaced the gasket this year because it was starting to want to spew water around here. And if you notice water coming out around any of this on yours, anywhere, it's time to replace the gasket, guys. I would have thought it would have popped up by now, but it's still doing its thing. Okay, so do we have any more questions? Just standing. No need to cover jars with a towel anymore. Is that talking about when you take them out? We lay a towel over them for about, 10, 15 seconds and then take it off, and all that's doing is drying the water off the top.
Yeah, you don't have to cover them.
You don't have to cover them and leave them.
That's an old wives' tale.
Yeah. I think they did that because they wanted the water off the top and things like that, but it's not going to bother your jars one way or another. You can do it, but I don't know if you want to. But we do lay a towel across it the first 10 seconds and don't touch and push the tops down, but just lay a towel across and let it absorb the water and then pick it back up. We have done that if there's a lot of water on top of your jars. I try to dump most of the water off mine when I'm getting it out. Is there any other canning questions other than potatoes and green beans and pears? Pears water bath.
They're saying, what's the best pressure canner? About how much do they cost? We use a Presto.
This is a Presto.
It's about, what, about $80?
I think these are around $80, 80, 90 to 100. It's according to where you get them. Look on Amazon.
It depends on where you buy them.
Yeah, Walmart carries them. This one is big enough to hold 7 quarts. That's all I want to do at a time is 7 quarts. I'm not into canning 14 and plus. I guess if you have a lot of food at one time, you can. But like I said, I do 7 at a time. I'm here all day. I've got all day.
I want to know, do you have to use salt when you can?
Yes. If you're going to can veggies, the salt is the preservative. Do not skimp on the salt. I know a lot of people say they have a problem with salt issues and things like that, but if you're going to can, salt and sugar are 2 things you don't want to leave out of your stuff. You can preserve some fruits and vegetables without sugar, but if the ball book says to use some salt or use sugar, I would advise putting it in there because it is the preservative. This is taking a lot longer than I thought it would.
It wasn't turned up high a while ago. I had to walk behind you and turn it up.
Yeah, that's part of it. I forgot to turn it on up.
And pull it forward just a little bit on that. Okay, hold right.
Is it sitting more level?
Well, it's just, I can see the burner.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You got it right. You'll notice when you get it right on that burner right.
Yeah. Maybe we were off just a little.
They want to know, is there a special kind of salt you use?
Okay, we're using non-iodized. It's great value, doesn't hurt anything. I don't use iodized salt. You can use canning salt. It just costs you 3 times the price. All it is non-iodized salt. So, you know, nothing special. This just popped up. So now we're waiting on this to start moving. Okay. I'm gonna try and get it where, okay, I'm not sure where I'm at. Right here? Is it too dark? I can't see what it's doing, so you'll have to tell me. All right, this has popped up. This will start jiggling in a minute. When this starts jiggling, that's when I set my timer for 40 minutes. Not now. Do not set your timer now because it's not ready. When this starts jiggling, I reach and set the timer for 40 minutes, and I turn my burner down just a little, just a notch or so. And if this keeps jiggling too much, I turn it a notch again. You don't want to turn it way down and then have to build the pressure back up. You want to turn it a little bit at a time until you get it jiggling like you want to. Anything else? Okay, guys, if you have no more questions, we're going to shut it down. I will have a picture of what the potatoes and green beans look like on the live stream on Deep South Homestead at 8 p.m. Central tonight. And thank you guys for joining me for my canning class today. And maybe we'll do it again. We have more pears coming up since several of you have said something about pears. I did the pear relish. It went up yesterday or this morning, yesterday I think. The canning pears was a few days ago. It's very simple and straightforward. I don't know that you would need a class in it because it's very easy. Go back and watch it. We're going to have butter peas. If nothing happens, we're probably going to have a bunch of butter peas, and we probably will be canning some of those. So you would be like canning peas, butter beans, or butter peas would all can the same. And so I think, if I'm correct, I think 40 minutes on them. If I'm not 100% sure, but I'm thinking 40 minutes. You can raw pack or you can hot pack. And so we'll discuss those then. Anything else?
Are there any things from the garden that you cannot can? Yes. Broccoli, cabbage.
Yeah, I wouldn't can cabbage. We do can greens, but cabbage tends to get real mushy. You can can it. Let's just say that. But it's real mushy, real, almost the flavors cooked out of it type stuff if you do cabbage. Cabbage is better if you do, what is it, sauerkraut. If you're going to preserve cabbage, you can put it in the freezer. I mean, I don't even like it in the freezer, but it can be done. I don't can cabbage, but I do can greens like turnip greens and things like that. It cooks them to death. I'll just tell you now, they're real soft. But when you hadn't had turnip greens and you open a jar of them, they're delicious. We had greens with turnip roots in them this week, and they were delicious. All you got to do is open them up and heat them and pour them over some cornbread. Tasted wonderful. We didn't put any seasoning in them. Cauliflower and broccoli are two things that are really, really hard to put in a jar and can. Now you could put the broccoli or cauliflower in there and can it and use it in soups or something, because it's going to be mushy. It's going to fall, slam apart when you open it. So I don't even know
It's
if
not
there's
recommended by the
I don't think it's recommended to even do it. So
it's recommended to freeze it. That's what.
Yeah, I think they say freeze broccoli.
Or put it in vinegar.
Yeah, you can do vinegar. If you've never tried asparagus, dilled asparagus, and you have a bunch of asparagus, guys, try using dilled asparagus. That's one of the best things I think I've ever had was dilled asparagus.
We have video on canning the green.
I'm not sure. If we do, it's on Deep South. Type in canning either turnip greens or mustard greens or kale or just canning greens, Deep South Homestead, and it probably would pull it up.
Yeah.
We do have a playlist on canning playlist on Deep South Homestead. You can run the playlist and see if it's in there. We've been doing this 4 years. I don't even know. I come across videos and
Amanda
I
said
forgot.
that if there was one.
Okay. I've forgotten what videos we've done, and I've forgotten which channel they're on because we do have 2 channels. So it is hard to remember after a while. If you can't find it one place, go to the other. Message me and I'll hunt it if I have to. All right, anything else? All right, guys, I'm out of here. I'm going to go sit down and relax, and we'll see y'all tonight on Deep South Homestead. I don't know if Danny